Hey everyone, it's Brother Chris here from Divine Oracle Podcast. What a beautiful day we are having. Right now, though, it is gorgeous, and just got back from beautiful Victoria, BC, right where I used to live over 30 years ago. And today's special guest will be actually from the island there, from Vancouver Island. Her name is Dawn, and she is actually the founder of Sawn Lake Spiritual. Really awesome lady. Got to talk with her right when we were out on vacation. And yeah, hopefully you guys will enjoy today's podcast. Are you looking for that hard to find item, spiritual item, that your loved one wants to always get, but you don't know right where to check out? Why not check us out here underneath hauntedlightpodcast.com. Underneath our store, though, we actually have tons of items from dream catchers, crystals, so many more for you. Check us out underneath hauntedlightpodcast.com.
Follow us here at Haunting Live, our new shows, and we are honored to have a brand new co-host on our shows now. Yolanta Mary is our co-host, and she does a lot of work for us on the side and introduces people to the show and discusses different topics on the show. So we're really happy to have her here this season. So go check out Haunting Live.
All right, so yeah, thanks a lot for being back actually from that quick commercial break. Again, those, like I was saying to you guys, I've actually met a very young lady actually out there in Victoria, BC. Her name is Dawn, and she's the founder of actually Sawn Lake Spiritual. How are ya?
Hi, it's great to see you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just miss it out there big time. It was more beautiful actually out there than what others think about beautiful Victoria.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you being there for all your life, though. That's what you were saying, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm born and raised in Victoria. I have been fortunate enough to travel and spend part of my time living in places like Florida, the Cayman Islands, London, England. But Victoria's home base for me. I grew up here. I have a strong community and a big network and lots of support here. And it's honestly one of the most beautiful places in the world, as you've described. And a lot of us take it for granted. So I think, traveling and seeing different parts of our own country and the world help us to really appreciate the beauty and the nature and the people that live here.
Yeah, and it's so true, especially from what's going actually on in the world these days. I know, though, that us Canadians, though, we always say elbows up. But the thing, though, it's true, though, explore more of Canada. If you haven't explored Canada, explore it. And that's one thing that we just did. Now, since you're in charge with Sawn Lake Spiritual, can you sort of let us know a little bit about yourself for that?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, I'd love to tell you how I kind of got started in all of this. I wasn't always a medium. I've always had sort of a connection to my spirituality and to a higher power, a divine being. Didn't necessarily know when I was younger if I believed in God. I had some experiences with people in the church and friends that grew up that way. And so I had some influences, but I also had a lot of influence on the Buddhism philosophy and way of life. So I had a spiritual connection, but as with anything, life can take you in many different directions if you're not setting the intention of where you want to go. And so I had some risky behaviors and experiences that pulled me away from that connection. And it wasn't until 2023 that I was working in my corporate IT job, severely burnt out, that my doctor took me off work and put me on a medical leave to begin healing and resting. That I actually discovered or remembered my love of playing with oracle cards and with doing spiritual work. I remember as a kid doing it with my friends, and it was just having that joy and that fun is something that I reconnected with during my medical leave. And so I started the company. It was a long process. So I was first just healing myself. I didn't have the intention to create a business. I didn't have the intention to become a medium. I was just focusing on healing myself, figuring out who I was, what I needed. And my mom actually bought me a ticket to a goddess circle, a women's healing circle. And it was up in Nanaimo, a couple hours away from Victoria. And at the weekend that this event came up, I was in such resistance. I was making excuses. My daughter has this event. I have to do this. I can't be there. But I heard something in me that just kind of clicked. And I said, Dawn, you're resisting. You need to go. You need to be there. And so I dropped the guilt. I went to this goddess circle, and that's where I had that epiphany of, I'm a natural born leader. I've got all this training, education, experience in leading groups and leading people. And this combines my love of spirit and the oracle cards and wanting to spread joy and happiness. I can do this. I can make money doing this. This is wonderful. And so I ran out and bought a deck of oracle cards and began reading the cards for myself, getting guidance for my next steps. And most of it right away was rest, heal. You're not supposed to do anything. And so I kept surrendering and I kept just following the guidance. And then I had an experience one day in my bedroom. It was nighttime. I had some music on. I was dancing and I had the scarf around my neck. And all of a sudden I looked in the mirror and I noticed that I had tied it kind of like a noose and my head was dangling. And I was like, what the heck? And I realized at that moment that it was a clue about one of the past lives I had lived and some of the struggles that I've endured in this current lifetime around suicidal thoughts. And I posted that experience on social media and someone commented, I'm a medium too. And I said, what? Is that what this is? I'm a medium? Well, and I started to embrace it. The cards told me to learn, to adopt a beginner's mindset, to master the skill. And so from there, I've got a background in business. I do have a business degree, and I had spent the last 20 years of my career in IT. So I have some IT skills, and I was able to create a website and create a service offering. And Sawn Lake Spiritual was born in 2024.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. Now, going back to what you were saying earlier, though, that you used to do with your friends growing up. What did you actually do? Did you just do an old deck of cards, or did you just say, hey, this is what's going to happen to you?
That's kind of cool. So I always have these psychic moments or psychic knowings, but I didn't have words for it. I didn't know what it meant. People would ask something and I would just be able to answer, and they'd be like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, I don't know how I know, I just know. And then all of a sudden we'd see evidence of that truth playing out or that outcome, and it would be like, oh, you were right. So it's kind of psychic knowings or nudges, but not really knowing what to do with it or how I was supposed to use it or what it even meant. But when I was a teenager with my friends, we were all just very curious. I think it first initially started with the Ouija board, but that was very scary. And I'm not really into the dark kind of energies or the dark side of spirituality and spirits. I prefer to work with the light and see the light in others and activate the light. But anyways, my mom had a deck of cards called the Russian Gypsy fortune-telling cards. And the author of that deck is a Canadian. She's a teacher. And so I used to watch my mom play with them. So then I asked if I could use them, and me and my friends would just do readings with them. That deck is awesome because it uses all of the cards and you turn them to make little pictures. And it's wild what comes out. It's so accurate. And so that's where I started, was with those cards.
All right. Now, with the cards, though, do you, growing up, though, did you just look at the cards, or did you look at the words? Or were both put in place?
Yeah, that time it was both. I mean, I didn't have, again, a strong understanding of my intuitive skills or strengths, so I didn't use my intuition at that time. At that time, it was purely just reading the pictures, reading the book, reading the pictures, reading the book. And even, fast forward, 20, 30 years later, that's how I started out again in my business and how I do a lot of my work, because someone's already channeled those words onto that paper. And so there's something in there that jumps out for the person that catches their attention, that brings a remembering, that highlights something. And so I do a bit of both now in my practice, where I will intuitively gather the information based on the images or what I'm hearing, feeling, and seeing. But then I will also read from the guidebook just in case there's something special there for that client.
now, not from your past, but now in present though, what do you actually work with? Like, I was reading though that you do past life, you do oracle cards, and there's some other stuff though that you work with. Can you let our viewers know basically what you deal with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. So I did start out with the oracle card readings, or tarot, as a lot of people know it. I find tarot to be a great tool for the divination to, again, give them words, and it's somewhat low energy for me, low demand. From tarot, I expanded into mediumship because, as I said, I discovered I was a medium, and so I found a program online to start studying. I found a mentor to start taking live classes, and then I found another mentor where I got a really immersive training in energy reading. And so I learned to speak and communicate with spirits that have passed over, that were once living on Earth. And that's actually one of my favorite services, mediumship. So I love connecting people with their loved ones on the other side. It's always so mind-blowing and wild, the information that they provide, the messages that they provide, the validation that they're still with us and around us. After I learned how and mastered my mediumship skills, I began into the aura reading, and that led me to the past life reading. And so we all have an aura, we all have an energy field around us, and it contains so much information, not just from our current moment or our current lifetime. We're talking generational information, ancestral information, multiple past lives, multiple dimensions. So as I learned to read auras, we started with identifying colors that represented energy frequencies and what that meant. And I can trace sort of what I look at in aura readings and past life readings is I'm looking at where your gifts are and your strengths are, where you're in alignment with what your soul came here to do and be and experience. And then we look at an energy around what's not working for you, what's not your truth. Where did this come from? Is it programming from society? Is it programming from your ancestors? Is it something that happened in your childhood? And so there is some elements of therapeutic benefit. It's all about healing. And so this allows us to look at things that aren't quite visible to the eye, the naked eye, right? And so I read from my third eye space.
Yeah.
And it sometimes plays out like a movie. I see scenes and I'm describing this to my client. And there's often a lot of similarities, a lot of stuff that they recognize within themselves, within the patterns they're seeing, and within the things that they're ready to change. And so these readings are very powerful to help empower them to make the changes, to embody more of who they are.
Victoria has the energy big time, right? Compared to the mainland. And out there in Victoria though, how do you find it with actually dealing with people? Is it more open-minded actually there in Victoria than the mainland for the spiritual community?
So, in my experience, of course, most of my clients come from Victoria and the surrounding area. When I opened up my business, I was very much offering, and I still do, in-person sessions. I also do Zoom readings, but I felt a need for connection after the pandemic. A lot of us are craving personal one-on-one connections and meetings. So I began offering in-person sessions, and so most of my clientele is Victoria. Growing up here, yes, I'm very aware that we're one of the so-called most witchiest cities in not the world. So there's a history here, right? There's a lot of energy. People are definitely open-minded, but we get our skeptics as well. But I also get clients from Alberta and clients from the mainland and clients from the States. And so I think collectively as a human race, more and more of us are starting to embrace that we are spiritual beings, that we are connected to the spirit world, and that there is more than meets the eye. And so definitely the island has a special energy and frequency, and the people here, are just such open beings, open and enlightened beings. I met a woman up in the Yukon where I was delivering readings over a week-long women's wellness retreat last month. And I had asked her, well, this place is so beautiful. Why'd you move to Victoria? She said, oh, it's just so much more spiritual. And I said, more spiritual than this? Because I felt so connected to nature, connected to the rocks and the minerals and the animals. And I felt like it was a spiritual place. But there's also a lot of trauma and heartache and things going on up there that make it difficult for someone to, I think, continue in their spiritual path. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. So we were kind of talking about your line of work. Do you want to let our viewers know more in detail of what you deal with besides just the reading in your services?
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, from the individual readings, I began expanding again based on demand, based on spiritual guidance, to begin offering parties. I do mystic oracle parties, and those are very popular. People will book me in for a stag-at, a bachelorette party, a Christmas party, a birthday party, and I'll go to your location. So sometimes I'm at the Oak Bay Beach Hotel, sometimes it's the Grand Pacific, sometimes it's their house or their rental Airbnb. And I'll set up a beautiful space and do personalized readings for everyone at the party. And so that can be a really fun way for people to get together. And then, they love talking about what comes up and sharing, and that's exciting. I do offer group mediumship events as well. I've done one publicly on my own, but I tend to do that again on a private party basis. So people can book if you have a group of people that want to receive a mediumship reading, then we can organize that. I actually just started a mentorship program. I have a prototype offering right now where it's called the Soul Flow Mentorship. So I can help mentor people as they step into their personal power and embody more of their spiritual side. What else do I do? I mean, it's really about the healing, the messages that come through from spirit to help people connect with their higher selves, to again start to see, feel, and know that the signs they see and receive are real, that they can trust what they're hearing, seeing, and feeling, and to help empower them to take the driver's seat of their own life.
All right. And with the Indigenous community, I know last time we were talking, though, that you were saying, though, that you had some stuff with the Indigenous community. So can you explain to our viewers what we were kind of talking about for that?
Yeah, my connection with the Indigenous community is beautiful. I myself am Métis Cree, and most of my life I spent in denial about that side of my heritage. Based on personal experience and observation, Indigenous people weren't treated very well, and I didn't want to be a target. I mean, I grew up as a neurodivergent individual, undiagnosed, and I was already bullied for many things, and so I didn't want to add another reason for people to target me. So it wasn't until about 4 years ago at my workplace where we were offered the opportunity to learn about Indigenous education, and now, as you know, in Canada, we're starting to share more of the truth and rewrite the history that we're teaching our children. And so when I took that course, and I felt a strong connection to embrace that side of me, and I felt like I could finally be free in a way. And so I started to learn, embrace more about my Indigenous heritage. And then one day in a mentorship session with my mentor, I had declared an intention that I wanted to be invited to deliver readings, to travel and get paid to do it. And out of the blue, I got this email from the health director at one of the First Nations in the Yukon Territories. And she invited me to this women's wellness retreat for the First Nation. And I was so honored to be able to have that opportunity, but also the fact that it was manifesting almost instantly one of my dreams and bucket list destinations. And so my cards at the time of that invitation had been encouraging me to learn more about my Indigenous culture. And so I accepted that opportunity with open arms. And when I went up to the Yukon and spent a week at that camp with those women, I learned how to bead. We did drumming and singing and powwow, and we had wonderful food and just great connection. I gained a great reverence for how they really and truly respect their elders, and it was wonderful to see that in community. And so I know from personal experience with my own family history, and then of course with people that I've talked to and that I know in my life, that there is a lot of grief, trauma, sadness, addictions, a lot of spiritual work that can help people get out of the darkness and help them find their light and then find an empowered and higher path to be on. And so I'm grateful to have that opportunity. And I've done, personal readings as well with Indigenous people, but I'm grateful to have that connection.
Now, sorry for bringing this up, but it's with the downtown core area. Where would you say some of the strongest areas within downtown core of Victoria are? Because I know for myself, though, I had an encounter there at behind the former jail. Right, I was there during the daytime, and I had one of the apps going. And right away, I know the spirit turned around to me and said, "Oh, I don't want to talk." It just said foolish and all that. My husband turned around and said, "Well, if you don't want us to talk, why are you talking to us?" But would you say, though, some of the hot spots are downtown? Or even in your area?
Sort of go out seeking spirits, if that makes sense. And to add to that complexity, I try to avoid downtown as much as possible. Being a very sensitive soul, I pick up energy a lot. And places that have a lot of buildings or a lot of people, it's overwhelming for me. So I try to avoid those spots. But I will tell you that where I'm located right now, it's not far from downtown. I'm close to uptown.
Yeah.
And as my business name suggests, Sawn Lake Spiritual, I live directly across from Sawn Lake. And so I have felt, I have seen, I have done work. It is an incredible portal here. It's just magical the way that the sky lights up above the lake certain times, the cloud formations, and just the colors of the sky and the air and the energy. When I walk around the lake, I touch the trees, I pick up messages, I pick up insights, because there's more than just human spirits, as you know. There's plant spirits, there's earth spirits, there's animal spirits. So I pick up a lot in that regard in the nature realm. I'm very much connected to nature in terms of how I receive my information and heal. And so one time early in my journey of discovering mediumship and learning and practicing and channeling for myself, I was led to Christmas Hill, which is right beside Swan Lake. And I walked up Christmas Hill and I sat there with my cards and my crystals and meditated and channeled. And I got this beautiful baby Indigenous spirit come to me. And I was wearing the murdered and missing Indigenous woman mask with the red handprint on it. And so I worked with that Indigenous spirit. And that's part of my calling again, to lean into the Indigenous side and to potentially help maybe locate missing people, maybe provide information with some of my remote viewing that might bring people closer to finding their loved ones. But Swan Lake and Christmas Hill, I mean, after that experience, I went back and did a ton of research, and I learned that there was a baby that had been taken away hundreds of years ago that the village was looking for. They I guess, eventually found it up on the hill and presumed a bird had taken it. So there's powerful energy where I am right now, but almost anywhere in Victoria, you're going to feel a different kind of energy, a different kind of spirit, and there's stories, and books. People have written books about some of the things that have happened here and some of the spirits that remain.
I know people can reach out to you actually at Sawn Lake Spiritual.com. Again, though, it's an awesome website. I've been going through that while we were talking last time, and then also as soon as I get back here in Ontario, I'm still going through it. It's like, I love the website. For those listening, check her out. She's a really awesome young lady, and it feels like, though, that you and I are connected in a weird way. Right? And it's not to do with the spiritual community, but it's above that, though, that it feels like that we're connected. It's like, but yeah, what now? Some other questions, though, is what would you say for people saying, though, they're only after money?
I mean, that's tricky. You have to really ignore the skeptics in a way that allows them to come to their own conclusion. You can't convince anybody or change anybody's opinion before they're ready to open their mind to other possibilities. And so in the line of work that we do, there are a lot of scam artists. There are a lot of people that will pull the wool over your eyes or ask you for money to take off a spell or put a hex on someone. It all comes down to your system. I mean, honestly, what you believe you're going to see. And so if you're looking for people to deceive you or take your money, you're going to find more of them. You're going to attract them into your life, right? But there's a lot of people doing legitimate work that are truly connected to the spiritual world, that are truly connected to themselves, that have been through hell and back to get and find this gift to rise in their power, and that are legitimate and honest. And I mean, you have a wonderful directory that displays the people that people can trust, that they can come to and find the services they need, whether it's energy work or mediumship, whether it's tarot cards or some other service that they're looking for, right? So I think definitely having a trusted directory as yours, it helps people. But reviews are everything. Talk to people, read online reviews, check people's profiles out, see if it's been around for a while or if it's something that was just created in a day. There's definitely ways to avoid those that are scamming. And you're going to get scam artists in any field. You're going to get people that are great at what they do in any field. Just because someone's a doctor doesn't mean they're a good doctor. So you're still going to get the good and the bad. And it's ultimately up to each individual to discern and trust who they do.
Now, I know this is kind of off topic, but it's to do with the spiritual community. What the fires are going on out there in Victoria area. Sorry, not Victoria area, but north area. And some people have gone home. But what's the energy saying to you by any chance?
Forest fires are something we always deal with. When I was up in Yukon, I was immersed in their philosophy around the natural beauty and benefits of forest management, that naturally our earth will destroy and remove certain things and then create conditions for regrowth and rebirthing. The fires that are happening up at Cameron Lake have been going on for a while. They were human caused and they're expanding and spreading. And so it's challenging. People do need to, stay away when we're in states of crisis and emergency. And they need to, follow and listen to themselves. The fires, particularly on the island, don't necessarily concern me. It's the volcanic eruption in Russia that hasn't happened for 600 years. It's the earthquake in Russia that sent tsunamis across the whole entire ocean. It's the forest fires in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. It's the massive, hurricanes. It's everywhere in the world where it's the worst size and scope of catastrophe that we've seen, that I believe on a fundamental core level is the earth and her energy and the cosmos realigning, shaking things up, getting rid of the old and making room for the new. And so I feel like a lot of this is, hey, humans, I'm angry, you're not treating me right, you're not taking care of me, which also means you're not taking care of yourself and treating yourself right. And so we need to get back to our connection, remembering that we are part of nature and that we are part of this earth. And we have to make some massive changes in how do we live?
Yeah.
Right? We need to consider our impacts.
Yeah. What I've said to some people though is us spiritual people are more in tune of what's going on with the world, right, than others are. There's major signs.
Yeah.
There's major signs, and that's one thing I noticed actually when I was out there in Vicky. I'm gonna call it Vicky, right? Because since I used to live actually in Colwood, basically those. But there was major signs though altogether. But it's been great talking with you today. And again, those for our viewers, though, if you'd like to get in contact with Dawn, you can actually at SwanLakeSpiritual.com. Just indicate though that you've listened to her here underneath Podbean, underneath Divine Oracle Podcast, right? And she would love to actually work with you all together.
Yes, absolutely, yes, thank you.
So, but I do say thank you very much for coming in today, and yes, thanks.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, thank you as always for having me.